Hello, my name is Maria Franzoni and I am thrilled to be part of Presentation Week. Thank you very much for having me. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about professional speaking. Speaking that gets you paid to speak. I'm not talking about speaking to sell from stage. I'm talking about where you are paid to come and deliver your session. How cool is that? Yes, you can do that. It does happen. It does exist. And that's what speaker bureaus do. This is what this is about. With my slides here. I run a speaker bureau, imaginatively named Maria Franzoni Ltd. And I'm part of the global network of companies known as London Speaker Bureau. And London Speaker Bureau was named by the New York Times as the most international, the most global bureau, because they have 25 offices around the world in 18 countries. So the perspective I'm coming from is 23 years experience running and working in international speaker bureaus with the background and knowledge that I take from the London Speaker Bureau group of companies that I can share with you. And that's why I'm qualified to talk to you about this particular topic. And that's important, by the way. If you're going to go out and speak, you need to be sure that you're qualified to speak about what you're speaking about. So don't speak about everything, speak about what you are qualified and experience in speaking about. So sorry, I digress there. I will do that from time to time. I can't help it. So I'm talking about professional speaking, and this is Presentation Week. And I think there are two really important aspects to delivering a really great business presentation. One is the presentation skills, of course, how you deliver it. That is vital. But also the other part is the content, and the content has to be absolutely top-notch too. So if you've got the both, you are a really top speaker, and you're going to get booked again and again and again, and you're going to get requested to come and speak again and again and again. And I find that sometimes speakers focus on one or the other, and really you should focus on both. And because I've looked at the program that you have in Presentation Week and done my homework to see who else is speaking, I can see that there are people in here far more qualified than me to talk about presentation skills and delivering a great presentation with great humor and great impact. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the other part, the content piece that I think is absolutely vital. As I said, I'm going to focus on that with you. So let's talk about content. What is it about content that is really important? This is Goldilocks, by the way, eating her porridge, and her porridge is just right. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's not too sweet, it's not too salty. I would add to that also not too stodgy. I like mine a bit creamy. I don't know about you. It's not about porridge. Your content needs to be just right. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it needs to be the right amount of content. One of the big mistakes that speakers make, or business professionals and professionals make when they start to speak, is they try to give too much. They try to give a lot of value, because you have a lot of value to bring. You've got a lot of experience to bring. You've got a lot of knowledge to bring, and you want to give it all in your speech, in your presentation session. Try to resist that temptation. Give what is appropriate at that time, appropriate for that audience and in that length of time that you have. I think also the other reason speakers do that when they're not that experienced is because they're not sure which bit is going to land properly, which is the piece that's going to be the really relevant piece. And so if you give it all, hopefully the audience will pick it out, but actually all you do is overwhelm them. They just have too much content. So get your content just right in terms of how much you're delivering. And I want to give you some idea of some of the content that works really well from business audiences that we work with, and the speakers that are getting booked again and again. Some of the things that they do with their content is they will have maybe a new insight into a topic that people have been talking about for a while, but they have a new way of looking at it. And that's great. People like that. People love insights. They might have a way of making a very complicated and complex topic simple and simplifying it. That's also a great way of delivering content. A controversial approach, when everybody's saying do this, we'll say we'll do that. I mean, Tim Ferriss and his 4-hour working week, everyone was saying let's work for hours and hours and hours. Let's hustle 24/7. And let's do a 4-hour work week. So something a bit controversial will stand out in terms of content, or something unique to you. You might have a unique story, unique experience, a unique model of solve something, or a unique model of doing something. So those are some initial thoughts about the content piece itself. What else? it needs to be relevant and tailored. And the most book speakers think about this. They make it relevant to what's going on now in the marketplace. They make it relevant to what's going on in the industry that they're speaking to when they're invited to speak. They make it relevant and tailored to the audience. So it's the right level, usually a bit above the level that the audience is at, so that you stretch the audience. You really don't want to talk down to an audience. You want to raise them up. You want to stretch them, but it's not about showing off. It's about stretching them and helping them and giving them something more than they currently have. Tailored maybe to an event theme that is happening, or tailored as much as possible to what that audience wants. And you might have an awful lot of content, and you need to decide, okay, which bits are the most relevant, which should I apply on this particular session. And you'll notice I have my lovely comical picture here to remind you that a fish does not need a bicycle. So you might not need to tell your audience about some of the things that you have prepared. It may not be relevant to them. So that's really important. The third thing that I think is important is to be easy to listen to and to follow. Help people with signposts, maybe help them with some slides or some pictures to make them think about it and therefore remember it. Give it a bit of structure. And sometimes speakers don't structure their content very well. So I have a butterfly mind. I go all over the place. You will see this in this video that I go off-piste. And so I have to have a structure to follow. Otherwise, I'll go off and digress and not stick to the point. So structure is really important. You want people to come away remembering something from your session and not thinking, what was all that about? Give them a nice, easy to follow structure. And actually, with regards to being easy to listen to, try to vary your pace a bit. Try to vary the way you talk. That's important too, because if it's always the same, I don't know if you've seen some of these speakers that are rah, 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 and it's like that all the way through. That's exhausting. To have a bit of sort of like pace change. I need to do that. I get a bit exhausting, I'm sure. Anyway, what else? This is not my takeaway menu. This is something that's really important as part of your content. Have some takeaways. And usually people like to have 3 to 5 takeaways from a normal session. And when I say normal, that means sort of like a certain duration of it. If it's very short, you might only want to have one thought that you want people to go away with. But you'll notice that when you look at Andrea's session, he's got 3 main takeaways. This session has 5 main takeaways. 3 to 5 is quite a good number to have. So that people then think, okay, I can focus on those things. 3 is a magic number, isn't it? I think 3 and 5 is good. And as I said, or you could have just one really big idea. If you've got one big idea, why add to it? I haven't got one big idea, I'm sorry. Okay, what else? Speakers that really get it right think about the objectives, and they think about the objective of the person that has brought them in to speak. And here, actually, there's a great question you can ask to really achieve that. And I think everybody should ask it. What do you want your audience to think, feel, or do differently as a result of my session? I'm going to do that again because I didn't do it very well. What would you like your audience to think, feel, or do differently as a result of the session? And that's a great question. Do you want to have them feeling more comfortable about something that they're dealing with, a very difficult situation? Do you want them to feel more confident about how they're going to tackle something now? Do you want them to think differently and be more open to other ideas? Do you want them to be inspired? Do you want them to go and do something? Do you want them to actually take action? So have that in mind. And if you've got that in mind from the very beginning all the way through your session, you can make sure that you include that and then fulfill the client's objectives. Clients love it when you ask them that question. So because I talked to you about structure and I talked to you about takeaways, I'm going to do what I said. And I'm going to remind you so that you remember the 5 things that I told you. And hopefully you'll take these away and apply them to your sessions. Think about content that is just right. Right for the audience, right for the timing, right for the duration. Content that is relevant and tailored to the people that you're talking to. Be easy to listen and to follow. Give some clear takeaway messaging and think about how you want the audience to think, feel, or act differently as a result of listening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. It's been an absolute pleasure being part of this. I'm honoured and flattered. Take care.